and then I will just feel all the sugar go to my brain, and I will be so elated until until that is done, and I'm satisfied, and then I'm like, okay, well, time to go to sleep. It is what it is.
The first thing that I want to define is consistency and how does that look for someone with ADHD? A lot of times we look at consistency and we say to ourselves, I can't be consistent. I can't. I think when you're looking at the traditional definition of the word, that may in fact be true. But the hack that I was able to use is what is consistency in the context of what my brain can handle. This was something that took some figuring out. Consistency for someone with ADHD could look like, instead of going every day to the gym, going every Tuesday and Thursday, or going every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And maybe it's not at 5 o'clock every day. Maybe it's whenever you feel like going. Ideally, for me, I would love to go in the morning, but I do prioritize my sleep. So that is most of the time not an option because I do have a harder time getting to sleep. So for me, I just try to give myself grace within that day. Consistency for me looks like doing the same activities on specific days, regardless of the time. So if I do those things at 12 a.m. or if I do them at 12 p.m. or 5 a.m., as long as I get those things done, then that is what consistency looks like for me. With regard to studying, maybe I don't study every day. Speaking of the type of day that I'm having, let's talk about how you can categorize your days to still be able to maximize your efficiency without burning yourself out. Now, how to structure your day based on where your dopamine levels are and how you're feeling about that day. I want to preface this by saying that you are not lazy because you have days where you're more tired and you have days where you are more energized. That's not lazy. That's just the way that your brain works. And it's something that I had to stop fighting. And it's something that I had to start accepting about myself. So there are particular days where I don't feel like doing much at all. And you can usually tell from the start of the day how you're feeling. I do agree that that can change over time, but I would recommend giving yourself some room to be able to improve if you want, but you don't want to overshoot and burn yourself out. So the first thing that I do every day, and this is something, believe it or not, that ChatGPT taught me, is I define each day as I wake up as a gold day, a silver day, or a blue day. My gold days are my days when I am moving. I'm getting stuff done. Everything's getting checked off the list. I'm super motivated. Dopamine levels are high. I feel healthy. I'm working out. I'm doing all of the things and I'm doing them at a high level. Those days are pretty much all encompassing and I can do a lot. I can study like a normal person. So I can study for like 10 hours that day, which is great. And I can cover a lot of material and get things done. The next day is going to be our silver day. So our silver day is when our dopamine is not particularly high, but it's not low. It's kind of one of those meh days. I call those my steady silver days because on those days you can get quite a bit done. I try to max myself out on those days at 8 hours max. That's max. And just kind of depending on how I'm feeling and how much I want to get through. On these days, it's very important to monitor your dopamine levels, make sure that you're eating well, make sure that if you're tired that you're resting well to make sure that you don't burn out on these days. You also want to make sure that you're really 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 listening to yourself because you don't want to create something that's going to cause a dip in your dopamine that would cause you to avoid completing these particular tasks. In the context of studying, that's very, very important because you don't want to scare yourself off from studying. And on silver days, where it's kind of the gray area, you can do that if you overshoot. So silver days, I try to, during my dedicated period, I try to shoot for maximum 8 hours. Usually I'm somewhere between 6 and 7 hours. And I try to take down my TikTok, because you can burn out really easy as far as dopamine is concerned if you're consuming too much TikTok on your silver days. So TikTok, I love TikTok. TikTok's great. I can be on that thing for hours, and it is absolutely for the dopamine 100%. So the things that cause the dopamine to spike and drop and spike and drop. So sugar, things that give us instant gratification, TikTok, other forms of social media, we want to make sure that we're light on those for that day. We want to prioritize things that give us longer releases of dopamine. That can look like working out. That could look like, for me, it's reading the Quran and praying and making dhikr and spending that time to really feed on the dopamine. Sometimes it is being creative, doing something creative like journaling or drawing or doing puzzles or decorating Pinterest boards. So the things that you like to do that can increase your dopamine for a longer period of time. I will say that for me, diet on silver days are very important, because on silver days, you don't want to do things that spike your dopamine for a short amount of time, because on silver days you are at risk for burnout, because you're not high and you're not low. So it could really go either way. So I try to prioritize protein, eating healthy, and working out or getting exercise, going outside, getting your vitamin D, especially on sunny days. I did not realize how beneficial being outside was until I moved to a place that wasn't particularly walkable and that didn't have as many natural places, parks, hiking areas that I could enjoy. I always knew that before it was a great source of peace for me, but I just thought that it was because I was a nature person. But no, it's actually really helpful for my ADHD, and it's a good way for me to get off of my phone and be proud of myself for climbing that mountain, for walking that trail, for being outside and being completely disconnected from those instant drives of dopamine. So those are things that are really important to me with regard to a silver day. So I want to talk about our blue days. Our blue days are our dopamine starvation days. These are the days when it's really hard to get up, get active, get the things done that you need to get done. It may manifest as laying on the couch, scrolling on your phone while watching TV, not really wanting to study or be productive, not really wanting to work out or do things that are good for you or even cook. So these days are days that can make or break our overall productivity. For me, with my blue days, I try to study half of the day. That's it. 4 hours. Study half the day, get that thing done, and then check it off of the list. It kind of balances out, because on my gold days, I'm doing so much more. So instead of reading 30 pages, I might read 60 to 75 pages, just because I know dopamine's up, we better get it done. So over the days, it will balance itself out. While it may not look like in a neurotypical person, reading 30 pages every day, it could look like doing 500 questions one day and then doing 50 for your blue days. And that's totally okay, as long as it balances out, and as long as that's what's the healthy routine for you. This is your routine. So with regard to my blue days, I prioritize rest. Rest is very important. It's so important. You should be getting as much sleep as you need. I don't like to say 8 hours, because for me, even if I take sleeping medication, my brain is going to wake up after 6.5 hours max. And that's what's appropriate for my brain, and I feel perfectly rested. So whatever amount of hours is sufficient for you to function and recover is what the best option is. These are the days where you can fall into depression, where you can make bad decisions with regard to your diet and your health. And these are days where you can fall into those TikTok scroll loops. While TikTok is okay, the up and down of the dopamine on these days, it can make you feel sad at the end of the day, just because you've burned out your dopamine receptors by going up, down, up, down, up, down. So you become generally insensitive to what you're seeing. So it doesn't work as well. So then guess what? You're looking for something else that will give you that dopamine kick. And that usually looks like sugar. That looks like something else that may be a little bit more extreme. For me, it's sugar. I will order that large Dairy Queen ice cream blizzard and I will eat that thing. And then I will just feel all the sugar go to my brain and I will be so elated until that is done and I'm satisfied. And then I'm like, okay, well, time to go to sleep. That can lead to a lot of depression, just the ups and downs, because sugar, it's only temporary as well. Of course, the more sugar you put in, the harder the crash is. And for me, that crash often results in depression. So on your blue days, prioritize your rest. Try to do something. Even studying 4 hours, even doing 50 questions is better than doing nothing, because if you do nothing and you have pressure of productivity behind you, you may start to feel anxiety as a result of not achieving those goals or moving toward the goals, because blue days are not designed for achieving goals. Those are gold days, maybe silver days. Those are to keep moving toward the target. So the goal is to keep moving toward the target so you don't feel the pangs of anxiety. This is something that I've actually just realized over this dedicated season is I am okay with my form of consistency and I can learn large amounts of material on gold days, and that will balance out over time. And I have to be okay with that. I have to let my body rest. I have to let my dopamine stores do what they do. Once again, I am not medicated. So this is how I've been surviving. For people who are medicated, maybe you can comment on what those days look like for you with regard to whatever medication that you're taking, and how is that helpful? Are you able to function more like a neurotypical person? Does that bring up other problems that you're dealing with? I would love to hear it in the comment section. Now that we've defined what kind of day it is, we need to make sure that we're able to function in the environment that we're given, or we know to seek out places that fit our brains the best. For me, I cannot study with other people, and a lot of people have recommended for this exam to study with other people. However, for medical school, I know that I was a big distraction to my classmates because I was trying to study with them, but I became very easily distracted. And also, that took away from my study time. So I've decided that it's not good for me to study with other people and it's not good for them, but it is okay to ask questions when you do see them. So if you guys have lectured together, you can go talk with them and say, hey, I was studying this. What do you think about it? So there are still opportunities to collaborate and learning. That just has to be at very specific times where it does not infringe upon your productivity. So distractions are a big problem for people with ADHD, especially if we're doing something that is hard or that is not giving us an immediate dopamine return. What are those things? So those things are apps, social media. Social media is going to be your biggest your biggest threat, because your phone is usually always with you, and it's so easy to scroll and get that quick dopamine hit that you need, especially if you're having a silver day or a blue day. So you want to avoid as many distractions as possible. For me, I downloaded the Freedom app, and this app is foolproof. It's not like the screen time app that you have like built into your phone. I'm not sure what Android has, but whatever the equivalent of that is, it's an actual app where you block these websites for a certain amount of time. You set your block list, you set the time that you want to block, and you set it in a recurrent manner. And you don't have to think about it, but you also don't get access to those things until that time is up. There's no lock code that you can override it, which is great for me, because screen time, it didn't help me at all, because after a while it was the muscle memory of just open it and then put the password and you're in. So the Freedom app has been very beneficial for me getting my day started. I set it for 4 hours. So from 8 to 12, there is no social media, none whatsoever. I don't think I even have access to my photos. You can choose which apps you want to include in that, but I strongly recommend that all of your social media apps be in there, because they are so detrimental to your productivity. And because you can burn out your dopamine receptors so quickly throughout the day, it's important that, especially if you're on a day where you don't have much dopamine, you're already low, you really need to take care of the dopamine that you have. And the fastest way to burn that out is by using some of these instant gratification apps. So I do try to set it for a minimum of 4 hours, and you can go in and add more time throughout the day, however you see fit. Usually the initial 4 hours is the hardest for me, and after that I can keep going. I think that is probably the consensus with a lot of people with ADHD. The starting is the hardest, and then after that you can just coast regardless of what your distractions are. The second thing is, for me, I enjoy studying in my home. It's better, I know where everything is, it's nice, it's safe. So in order to distract myself, especially during medical school, I would go clean. I love cleaning my house. I realized before I came into dedicated for this exam that cleaning and doing things around the house was going to be a big distraction. So for me, I got a housekeeper. For people who aren't able to afford a housekeeper, you can also have a day where you clean, or you may opt to not study in your home, especially if cleaning is a big source of distraction for you. Because I promise, in medical school, I would clean my whole house before I reviewed some lectures. It was a battle. So eventually I had to study outside, and that came with its own issues of over socializing, distracting myself with other things. So minimizing the distractions. So I usually take my phone, I put it outside of my view because I don't want any text messages. My phone stays on do not disturb for the totality of my day. I will get back to you when I can get back to you. If it is important, I do try to check my phone very quickly on my breaks, but if it's something that can wait, it can wait. And that is a big thing when it comes to ADHD, is taking things out and prioritizing what it is that you need to get done today. If you need to film that video, if you need to study, I put my phone in my bed and I plug it in and leave it in the room, because I don't usually pace through my room. I don't walk through my room. I don't do any of that. So then I just have the living room and the kitchen, and I have my TV, but I don't really watch a lot of TV because I I don't pay attention to it. So I usually just put on like YouTube Study with me or in the background. I usually don't do things that I might be interested in. I do have a lot of vloggers who like to do documentaries and cover pop culture and things like that. So I try not to put them on. They're my fun people that I get my dopamine from. So I wait, especially if there's a new episode. I'm like, you have to get all this stuff done before you can watch your girls. And that includes Caleb Hammer. So I try to have that for myself. But during the day, I try to play study music, play Be With Me, so that I'm in that mindset. And from the start, when I wake up in the morning, I only put on study music, because you can't watch one of my favorite vloggers, because then that turns into hours and hours and hours and hours of watching them, having them in the background, and not able to dedicate 100% focus to what it is that you're supposed to be doing. So these are the things that we have to be mindful of as people who have ADHD, especially if you're not currently medicated. So, the next thing, making a plan. You want to make a plan for your day. What I found and what I've seen in not only myself, but in some of my previous classmates, some of my friends, is that you can be a planner. You can have a planner and plan out everything that you're supposed to plan out for your day, if that does not inspire becoming paralyzed, ADHD paralysis. You write down all this stuff and you're like, ooh, that's a lot, and you end up getting nothing done. In medical school, I didn't have as much of a problem with this. The list was a great visual for me to just start and get stuff done. However, what I've realized over residency is that this absolutely has been a problem for me. When I do try to make large lists, especially on the 2 days that I have off, it often paralyzes me, and either I get less than what I wanted to get done, or I avoid doing those things because I'm like, oh, gym is on the list. If I finish this, then that means I have to go to the gym. I don't want to go to the gym. So if I never get to it, I never get to it. What I've started doing is I've started just starting the things that I know that I need to get done for today. I don't write it down anywhere. If it's laundry, I throw that first thing of laundry in the washer. If it's dishes, I put those dishes in the dishwasher. And I just start doing little things, like cleaning off my bedside table, making my bed, getting the bed undone so that I can like wash the sheets, things that will help me move and get started with my day. When I do feel like, okay, I'm in a good rhythm, things are good, then I will go and I will make my to-do list after, and I will include those things that I have already done. And I will say, okay, we're in great momentum. We've already done 4 out of 10 things on our list already. No need to stop now. We can just keep going, and we've still got all this time. It's a really great way to kind of trick your mind into like you are being productive and you are doing things, and you've already climbed halfway or over halfway of this mountain, so you may as well just keep going and get it done with because it's not so bad, right? That's a way that I've personally tricked my brain, and I think that it works for me. The last tip that I have that I've learned in order to survive, and this is something that I learned in residency, is to move your body. Moving around as you study, anytime that you're doing anything that may be stressful, is helpful. For me, not only for retaining information, but also for dopamine regulation and emotional regulation. Me walking helps me process the information that I'm reading, and if I'm in a stressful state, it does help regulate me emotionally. I walk so much. I'm not even going to tell you guys how much I walk because it's just like a part of my everyday life. But this started in residency, and I had this little apartment. It was like 750 square feet, and it was shaped like a box. Like you have the room, then you go in the bathroom, then you go out to the kitchen. Yeah, the bathroom had 2 doors, one to the room, one to the kitchen, and then you go into the living room. And I would just track that for hours studying. And when I moved for radiology after my intern year, my place was not shaped like a box, but I have an open concept between the kitchen and the living room, and I have the island. So I just track around my couches and the island, and I do that quite often, and it does help me think. It helps me process emotions. It helps me so much. I do think that it is beneficial because it is a source of dopamine that you can also use to your benefit to keep you going. I would say that you should walk in a place that you're familiar with. I walk in my home. I don't think I would recommend walking outside while reading, doing much more than being on your phone. I use like physical books because they just help me with textures and things. I would recommend, for me, I walk in my home where it's safe, but I would recommend walking in a where you know the circuit very well. That can't be changed by trees falling down or things that you can trip on, get hurt on. High traffic areas, probably not recommended, but I just do this in my home, and it's so nice and it's so safe and it helps me so much. I really hope that these tips are able to help other people who may or may not know that they have ADHD or may feel like they have ADHD or having trouble regulating that before they get an official diagnosis. I would recommend trying some of these tips and seeing if they work for you and see if you see any change in your productivity. Don't hate yourself for the way that your brain works. It will work to your benefit. You are able to do so much more in such a short amount of time, but your brain just needs a little bit more time to recover. Every day can be different. You may have 2 gold days and then have a silver day. You may have 2 gold days and then have a blue day. You just have to accept yourself the way you are and try to be productive within the limits of what your brain span is for that day. I do appreciate you guys for watching the video today. Please take time to subscribe and like the video. I would like to hear your comments, especially if you are currently on medication for ADHD, the changes that you've experienced as a result. If anybody has tried any of these tips, I would love to know and see if it's helped you, if it's working for you, and if you have any tips of your own, please drop them in the comments. I would love to create a community here. It's been really great getting a diagnosis, finally knowing that I'm a little bit different, and that's okay. And now I just have to learn to live with that. I just want to help people who are not medicated or may not have an official diagnosis just yet so that they can be productive in their days until they're able to get the help that they need and that they deserve. So please subscribe. My name's Rahma. It was so nice to have you here. Thanks to everyone who's already subscribed. I really appreciate it.